Yeah.
That's dope.
Alright, we should be back live now.
Oh yeah, it's resetting all my thing. Yep.
Alright, we're back.
Yep.
Alright, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Check, check. Alright, here we go. So, where did we leave off on? Yeah, so Mystic Casting, you gotta get your totem, more arcane spells. Oh, of course. And then Resilience 3, just like Demon, they get an Embrace Death enchantment. So if you go into triple Resilience, your half-orc will get up once a day after combat. So,
Wait, hold on, Matt. I think some people are having some issues real quick.
Whenever you're ready, Chris.
What are they saying?
said new stream.
Hold on, so yeah, some people didn't hear us.
Alright, hey, y'all can hear us? Sound check, sound check.
I'm looking at the sound.
There's,
Nope.
I
no,
can see it jumping.
I mean, this is reading us, but it seems like it's not coming through to them.
Okay, watch out.
I know, I wish I had, like, the camera, like, come in, like, hands.
Hold on, some people can hear us. Alright,
Okay.
talk directly to them.
Let me talk directly to you. Hey, can y'all hear me?
Swordfish Live.
Everybody can hear me.
Cool, we just gotta go back to
I'm just trolling, y'all. Kenneth Ford just trolling. Everybody, I just want everyone to know Kenneth Ford. Kenneth Ford is the reason we're not talking about the rules right now. It's Kenneth Ford. That's you take it up with him, all right? So everybody can hear us. We're good. All right.
Alright, it seems that everybody's got sound again.
Alright, cool.
Let's go back to Totem.
Alright, seems like some people want us to go back a little bit to cover Mystic Casting, which is your totem. So, this is what you have to do as a half-orc. Mystic Casting was a starting advantage. Now you purchase it. So you have to purchase this advantage to purchase into Magic. When you do it, you get a permanent soul-bound totem. This totem, you can scribe one spell to it. If you scribe a spell to it, it will, well, for one, it's going to be on your totem that's soulbound to you, so it can never be taken from you. And two, it combos with shamanism, so you'll be able to deliver a free arcane spell with shamanism if it's the same, or a free arcane spell of the spell you have scribed onto your totem. So expect as a commonplace for half-orcs that half-orc shamans are going to have these little totems. I'm going to make a half-orc, and my half-orc's going to have a super cute totem. It's going to be great. Maybe it'll throw deaths. I don't know. It'll be fuzzy. But it could be whatever you want. It has to be bone, stone, or wood. Yeah. And then of course they get more shamanism, so they can throw more arcane spells of that spell that they have on their totem. And then, of course, they get their Embrace Death at Tier 3. So, Resilience 3. So, when it comes to combat, Consecrate actually did get a little better because, you know, it is powerful in Necromancers, but they were the only ones that really had it. So, now, if you're fighting powerful Journeyman Demons or Journeyman Half-Orcs, you're going to need to Consecrate them. And, of course, for the Half-Orc, this is particularly good because if a group of Half-Orcs all berserk and kill everyone on the field, including themselves, then they'll get back up. Alright, so Prodigal Caster for human. So originally, Prodigal Caster just gave you a free arcane spell, and that was really fun. Until the Ashen Rain got to level 20 plus, and then they all had 5 free tier 5 spells for a free 25 spell points each. Yes, that was a bit too much. But making every single arcane spell that they threw cost full points didn't seem quite good enough, so we changed Prodigal Caster a little to increase the mana cost by, or decrease the mana cost by 1. So you can deliver that spell if it's a tier 1 spell for free, or, you know, if you're using higher tier spells, you still get some extra spell points out of it, along with it being arcane. And then, of course, Power Nap follows the same rules as Meditating, so you gain a number of hit points equal to the minutes you spent napping, or meditating, or whatever. So now we hope to see that, you know, nap got used a little bit, but we hope to see it used a bit more now, because a lot of players complain that, oh, well, I only had 20 hit points, but I had to sleep a whole hour. Well, now you can just, you know, sleep under a tree for 20 minutes and you'll be at full health. And Liege changed slightly. So Liege, instead of doing some wonky thing with nobility, human lieges can't fall below rank 1 noble. That means a human liege can never go and fall into ruin. It just, for some reason, even when a human noble is just terrible, the humans still love them. It's like you can call it the Trump ability if you really want, you know. You're just like you might not like him, but there's nothing you can do. He's your noble forever.
He'll never be lower than Tawa.
This guy will never be lower or worse than Tawa. Yes, that's true. It's true. That's what the human noble benefit is. I picture this guy eating a giant turkey leg. You know, like the classic, like sitting behind a table with a goblet of wine, eating a turkey leg while the peasants are like starving. Alright, so Vampire. They also have the Natural Claws ability like Demon, so they can do the Pierce attack, which combos very well with combat, because you can combo this Pierce Strike, or this Pierce attack, with strikes. So just like we were saying with Demon, a really good early combo with this is you can get Power Strike and Natural Claws and deliver a Pierce Power Strike for a hefty bit of damage. Or you could, of course, combo it with Paralyzing Touch. So yeah, stay away from a vampire. They will tier 1 combo you and paralyze you and feast on your blood, and there won't be anything you can do about it. Alright, a little bit of change here. Nosferatu 3. So Nosferatu, if you're a vampire, you know, is a powerful advantage. So we decided to add something else to it, and it was something that we kind of had vampires doing at tier 5, but we want to do it now. Vampires can eat someone once and gain a soul. Yes, that is correct. So you like Coven of Vampires? Yeah, well, guess what? When that Coven of Vampires gets to tier 3, and they're looking low on lives, I think they're going to want some lives. And if you're the only other tier 3 characters around, well, yeah, you might, you know, vampires might not be as friendly as people once thought. Oh, and then, of course, Meld with Shadows 2, you get to become invisible while in shadows. And, of course, I'm sure you've noticed the invisibility when you first get it. You can't move because, well, walking around while invisible is very powerful and kind of immersion breaking. So we still wanted to give it to you, though. We wanted you to be able to hide if you were, you know, that type of character. So tier 3, you can finally do it. Go back invisible. All right. Moving on. And then, of course, the last but not least race, Zana. So Zana... Oh, ha ha ha. Oops. So a change to their Zana realm is called Zana Pocket, just for like aesthetics. Their Pierce attack did get nerfed some. It says the plus 10 damage in that, but that did get reduced to just being a Pierce attack, and so expect a slight change with that we apparently missed with Pierce attack. And then of course Zana Pocket 2, which turns into Zana Pocket 3. So first you get a pocket, you can't be searched. Then you can make your container that can't be searched unless there's Zana. And and when it says create a magical lock, that's going to be expanded a little, where the container can't be moved. So that's another addition to an effect you'll see later on. But the Zana Pocket or Zana Container can't be moved without the Zana or a Zana moving them. You can see that with the buff with Tier 1 Binding Spell Anchor. So a little teaser, you'll see that with Binding in a little while. But that's something that we're actually incorporating in a few spots. I'm sure everyone knows there were issues with, people stealing things. The main problem was like you'd have a rogue come in, and then you'd have all kinds of traps and locks on your box, but then they would just take your box. And then they would go deal with all the traps and locks in the safety of like, Tier 3 White Caster or someone who can like easily heal them. So just like with Zana Pocket 2, you're going to see a few instances where you can make a container that cannot be moved normally. So that way those pesky rogues are going to have to deal with whatever traps and locks that you put on your container. Universals, there's just a few changes that are going to be in here. A couple additions, as you can see, Guildmaster and Culinary. We experimented with Culinary and Guildmaster last iteration, but now they're both going to be official advantages. So the main change with material types is that for durability, how many times your weapon can be shattered and repaired, instead of being based on the material type, is going to be based on the tier. So if you have Tier 3 material, you have 3 durability. If you have Tier 5 material, 5 durability. So that's how many times your item can be, shattered or destroyed and repaired before it's permanently broken in scrap metal at that point. So some fun changes here. Let's start with Bard. So we had several actual musicians work with us on the Bard ability. They were really depressed at how we were doing Bard before. Apparently, no one does music based on minutes. Music is based on things called bars and beats and stringing together bars and beats and all of these things. So that is now how you define the time of a song. So if you want more targets from Bard, you need to play or sing more beats. So you have a minimum of 4 beats per bar, and each target is equal to another bar. So as you can see, one target would be 4 bars, but if you wanted to target 5 people and use all 5 of your Bard uses, you would need to play 32 bars, which I believe is around a 2-minute and 30-second song. So, give or take depending on the speed of the beat, but it's around in 2 minutes and 30 seconds for a full bardic song, I believe, when we did the math. Yeah, I think so.
That really depends on how fast you play the song.
It does, but on average. There's like an average amount of time that it would take. But yes, but you can also use Bard as a storyteller or a juggling or other staff approved thing, but particularly for playing music, this will make a lot more sense to you if you do play music. And if you don't play music, well then we probably won't let you use an instrument to play Bard, and worst case scenario, we'll default you to the 60 seconds per target. And then, of course, the bardic abilities have changed a little bit. So now at Novice, they have a 10 heal. At Adept, they can give a +1 strength enchantment for an hour. Journeyman, they're keeping their charm. And then Master Tier, they can open a Tier 1 through 3 lock. And then, of course, Song of Magic. So Bards now are kind of more of your D&D Bard. They really can kind of do everything. They can rally a group and give them some strength. They can heal somebody. They might be able to charm someone in the audience they're trying to woo, or they can go and open up a lock.
Did we already do spell combat? Did we already do spell combat, or is this still after?
That's later.
Okay.
And then, of course, people were asking about it. Bards were using it a little bit. You have increased fame. So now Bards can spend IAs performing during the IAs to increase their fame. Since Bards were already kind of doing that and we didn't have a system, well, now we have a basic system based on the number of IAs you spend and your rank of bard and kind of what you do, you
Yep.
will have a amount of fame. And the more famous you get, the more requests you may get.
It's a minimum of 4 beats per measure.
Oh, is it 4 beats per measure?
Yeah.
Minimum 4 beats per. Haha. See, I don't know very much about
Yeah,
music
you
per.
are.
I'm glad we have some people here. See, this is what I was saying. Someone who knows music will
Yeah,
understand
Kenny
what's,
was like, nah, that's not right.
what's going on here. So is it target? Wait, would it be targets equal number of measures?
Yeah.
And what's a bars? How's it? I guess the bars for the beats only.
I think a bar is a line.
Oh, that's the okay. All right. Well, if that's wrong, we know who to come after.
Should be like if it touches you.
Kenny.
Alright, so did we talk
You
about
do like
Grandmaster? Just now we're about to move on to Healing Arts.
Yes, and now we're moving along to healing arts. Well, Song of Magic didn't change. Those bards can throw innate magic that they know at tier 5, and well, that's always really nice.
It is. It really is.
And in case you didn't know, instruments, it wasn't so obvious last time, but you can have an instrument or, you know, a storybook created, and it'll give you an additional use per tier of the bardic device that you're using. So, you know, so you can get extra uses of your bard talent. Alright, so healing arts. So healing arts is pretty similar, but we decided to add a few things to your upper tier healing arts that kind of was already in the game and covers a few things. So of course, first aid at tier 1, normal, and it has your minus 10 seconds per tier progression. That's the same. And then of course you have holistics at tier 2 now. So whenever you pick it up at tier 1, you can only use first aid. You have to be tier 2 to actually holistic somebody and be able to get all of their information. And actually, this is not a 60 count. This is a 5 count. So let me change that.
You still got 60 count.
Yes. Might even be instant, honestly. Because was it instant now? It was the old rule was that it's instant. So we'll keep it 5 for now. But yeah, so you'll use holistics, and you have to progress into first aid if you want to be able to determine exactly what's wrong with somebody. And then holistics 2, this is something that a lot of people were asking for.
Right there. Must say.
I'm not worried about it. Holistics 2, you can observe and examine the target. So you spend 5-minute ritual essentially examining the target, giving them an examination, and you learn their true gender, their true race, any transformations, tattoos or runes, or special diseases that they may have on them. So this is to, you know, we have a lot of characters that are like actually playing a different gender than they really are, and then there's people that are different genders, and then there's people that are actually characters that are pretending to be different genders than they are, but they're just in bad makeup. You know, all of this stuff. Well, now, yeah. So now you yeah. So if you want to go and try and sneak onto the Broodmother mod, they might try and make broodlings give you an examination if they're suspicious. Who knows? But they'll be able to get this valuable information. You'll know exactly what gender and race something is. You'll know if they have transformations, and very specially, you will know if they have tattoos or runes from your demonic rune ability. So if you have people secretly getting, you know, necromancy tattoos on them, this is the ability that you would need to help see that.
We have people asking, is this going to be something that detects gypsies?
I think it's for the higher level one.
No, that is the one thing that it would not do. So any time that there's a physical thing the same with vampires, a human and a gypsy are interchangeable. You don't know the difference.
The difference would be if you've embraced the curse, because then obviously you're a gypsy.
Right. If you've embraced the curse, then yes, you would be able to be like, okay, obviously. So yeah, if you're a gypsy that has not embraced the curse, it is going to be very hard now for people to figure out if you are a gypsy. You're going to have advantages that kind of draw you into the woods, but we went through efforts with Gypsy to make sure, you know, the hit points are the same. You don't take double from silver until you embrace the curse. So your hidden Gypsy can remain hidden pretty well. And then, of course, at Tier 3, this was something that was used in-game, but there wasn't an actual ability to do it, so now there is. If you want to take an observational study of a target during the IAs, you can do that. So there's a lot of situations where people wanted to examine an automaton or examine some like mythical creature or even just like a shadow or broodling. Then they were trying to get details of it. So if you spend 5 interlude actions with your Holistics 3, you can have an in-depth observation and get detailed information about a creature type. So, you know, you could think of it as being like your doctor. You can examine people and watch out for things like diseases or something. Or you can, doing like an autopsy or something. Or you can be like an animal person where you go, or a creature person where you're going and exploring and, you know, studying animal types and creature types to try and figure out, you know, their special properties and traits.
Yeah, and diseases this time are going to be much more prevalent in a way where you're going to see them and know what a disease is. And, for instance, things that would affect your character in a physical way, not necessarily a magical way.
You get to talk about Holistics 4.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, and Holistics 4 is going to be Holistics 4, craft treatment for diseases. So the whole thing with diseases is last time we had a bunch of abilities that affected people, but it wasn't something you could be dispelled of. But maybe, you know, if you could like carve it out of someone or just perform the correct medical procedures, you could get it out potentially without killing the person. Of course, I'm talking about the eggs and the various things that occurred. So these things would fall under the umbrella of disease. You'd have to observe someone, and then you make a cure for it, and then you treat people for that disease. And like I said, there's going to be, you know,
your brain,
other things as well.
Some diseases that you may not be thinking of that would be diseases now. You had the brain worms from the King of Worms. You had the plague, you know, a few years back early in the game. You had
the wasting disease curse.
Yeah, there's the wasting disease. There was witch rot.
Scorpions. People were
And then there was the scorpion eggs inside of people. So like all of those things are gonna fall into the realm of diseases, and you're gonna need Grandmaster Holistics people to be able to take care of those things. And so expect in this iteration some of these diseases to be pretty bad. I mean, I guess if you had brain worms, diseases were bad last iteration. So
yeah, just as bad. Let's put it that way.
at least as bad.
And then of course, you know, we all really loved was it Luther?
Yeah.
Was that Luther's character where, you know, he was the surgeon, would go around and have to perform surgery to get brain worms out of people, and of course only a tier 5 holistics person could do that, and that just happened to be him. So yeah. We hope to see a lot more higher tier holistics in there. What you got?
Brian said drug addiction as a disease.
Oh, you know what?
No, it's a choice. No, or maybe it's a disease. Well, I don't know. You have to find out in play.
You have to FOIP that one, I guess.
Man,
I don't know.
You got it fully explained.
All I'll say is that with the amount of in-play drugs we had last time, we developed a whole drug system this time around. So we had some players also requesting it. So you know that we'll leave that to a FOIP. But
you guys did so much drugs, it sculpted the plane.
Yes, the entire plane of existence now is changed because all your
too much do-it-all potion.
Oh man. Oh man, you're gonna have to have treatment for people to get off of do-it-all. That's kind of.
Some of y'all went through the gate with do-it-all addictions. Just saying.
Crazy. It's your fault. Okay, so a change here. So mercantilism. So this definitely switched up some. So merchant now has smuggle, which used to be a rogue ability. So before, merchants were doing merchant stuff and rogues were doing rogue stuff. Well, now if you want to be a roguey merchant, you're going to have to combo into both. But any merchant can try and smuggle something. I mean, any merchant knows where to access the black market. So if you want to try and secure goods for the cheapest price as a merchant, well, you go to the black market. But if someone scouts you, well, they get to know that you're buying things from the black market. So that'll add a lot of role play into it. So you might think you're getting away with a really good deal buying things for only, you know, 200% instead of 250, but, you know, the sheriff's scouting you and he's watching you. And then, of course, Rogue, though, we wanted Rogue to have a really useful ability in play. besides just having the decreased search count. So now they get sense trap. So similar to Tinkerer, they have the ability to see a trap and then stop and not take the trap. They can walk away from it if the trap is of equal or lesser tier than the rogue. So if you're a rogue tier 3, you come across a tier 3 lethal trap. Oh, wait, I'm not going to take this because I have rogue. But you can't proceed past the trap either. So, and then we have for scout. So we're gonna add a little bit more detail to this because we have a in-play map system that's still coming together. But all the rules are pretty much made. We're just hammering out all the details. So what you'll do, of course, as a scout is you still have tracking. You can track individuals like we were saying, like with Merchant. You track them and find them doing secret necromantic rituals or smuggling something or whatever. But you can also investigate a location. So scouts are going to be able to pick a location on the map, which is going to be a large grid. And every piece of the map is going to be part of Aradeti Forest. So you're going to be able to get pieces of the map and explore it. So you'll be able to, go to section A1 that's right next to the town. And then maybe go to section A2 and expand further out. And so using investigation, you'll be able to go see as a scout what's in that location before actually going there with a mod group. And then, of course, you have Explore. I guess the name might be a little different, but for Grandmaster Scouts only, they can set up through the IAs. They can set up in-play mod requests to go to certain locations. So what we're going to be doing in this iteration to manage the numerous amount of players we have, since just for the first episode we're looking at 100+ players. And we want to make sure to cater to everyone, so we're going to be introducing a few abilities like this that will allow you to set up a mod during the IAs to make it, guaranteed that we're able to mod for you. So if you're a character that really feels like, you're not able to get on mods or you're, getting bullied out of plot time, there's going to be some abilities like Tier 5 Scout where you get this and you can set up a mod and you're going to be able to go on it. And, of course, before getting to this, you're going to see a lot more NPCs, coming through the woods and things like that, bringing you on these mods.
An important note for Scout and using, the maps and the map system in general is you're not really going to be able to just, leave town to go do stuff. I mean, you will be able to do that, but without these maps and other abilities, you're going to be in, the Tier 1 area right around town. I don't care how powerful your character is. If you don't have certain abilities, you yourself just do not have the capability of getting through the nastiness that is the Forest of Aradeti without getting horribly lost and quite possibly just dropped into random sections that you may or may not be prepared for. So it's going to be really important to get on the good side of scouts and prospectors and things like that if you ever plan on actually leaving the town proper.
Yeah, so a little bit more information will come later on the map system, but no, we're going to be we kind of used it last iteration, but now it's going to be official. Locations are going to be at specific places on the map.
Location.
Oh, and one other thing. So there's going to be the ability to buy Tier 1 Alchemy from Merchant at a base cost of 10 kopecks per tier of the Alchemy. That's the base cost. So what, a Tier 1 potion costs 30 kopecks? Is that base cost? So it's not cheap, but if you want to get a Merchant, just go buy Alchemy, they can. And then if you want anything higher than Tier 3, or you want Alchemy higher than Tier 1, you need to get a special in-play contract. Yeah,
and as you see right there, it says blank scrolls, as well as Tier 1 Alchemy. The reason that's available is because we're going to get to that later when we discuss spells.
Well, no, it's just because it's good to have Tier 1 Alchemy.
Well, yeah, but now it's integrated with this actual scroll system for...
Well, yeah, everyone wants to buy a Tier 1 Alchemy. It's the basics.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a magical world. Tier 1 Alchemy is on the shelves everywhere you go. It's all the fundamentals. So let's go to resource advantages. So prospecting also has the produce location produce a location map. So just like scouts and prospectors will be able to produce locations to maps or acquire maps if they go on mods to places, and that'll allow them to go back to them. Or, the prospector can make a map and sell that map to somebody, and now that person can go to that location. So a good example of this would be, let's say, the Golden Grove, Yamaz Grove. Well, on this grid, imagine the town's in the center. Well, one of these locations would be the Golden Grove, G1. And so if you didn't have a map to G1, you would be unable to go to Yamaz Grove. So maps are going to be very highly valuable items in the game, and if you have a map that's pieced together with lots of locations, that's going to be probably one of the most valuable things in the game next iteration is a completed map.
Oh, and one last note on maps is outside of just your basic map, the map has multiple layers to it. So you can get maps for other things than just the basic topography of the game.
Yeah, there may be several maps specific to a grid square.
Right. Depending on what...
Lots of quests on one block.
Yeah, exactly. The Abyss might have their own special map. Of the world versus the known map. Scholar, so ciphering, we super simplified how ciphering works now. So what you do is you spend an IA and you make a cipher, and we give you an envelope and it has a tier of what the cipher is. So you as a scholar can place information inside of the envelope and close it. Well, only other scholars of equal or higher tier can open that cipher envelope and be able to read the ciphered information. So now you're going to be able to, as a scholar, be able to communicate, send messages, or, store valuable recipes or maps like we were talking about in these envelopes. So no one, except for other scholars, will be able to read the information and know what's inside of it. And we kind of tested this last iteration, and it worked out very well, but people weren't aware of it. So we think if people are aware of it from the beginning, that this will get a lot of use. And then, of course, profession was, you just got it, and then you got Copex. So now professionals can pick up a professional contract for their chosen profession type, and they'll receive double the Copex for however long that contract lasts. So if you're a professional, you can have incentive to go and seek out contracts from other players or NPCs, typically NPCs, to put you to work, and you can make more with them. Alright, so nobility is mostly the same. We changed up a couple things, made it a little bit easier to understand, but the biggest change for nobility is that nobles, as part of their requirement for being a noble, has to submit what region of the land that they're from. One of the principalities, Morgrim, Demon Kingdom, Avaros, Erideti, wherever it's from. And so instead of having this whole ordeal of needing NPCs to hand out contracts that are in play, but they're like, we got to keep track of them for out of play rules, we're going to change that whole thing up. So now a noble will receive a contract from the higher nobles from their location that they hail from, and it'll be equal to their rank in nobility, and it'll just be given to them. And it's their goal to have that contract completed. So, for example, if you're a Tier 1 noble from Noctu, you may have a noble contract come from there. Maybe Alpo's, the grunt noble working over there, and so he decides to tell you that you need to collect some created for somebody. And so you don't have to do it. You're a lord from Noctu, but you need to have that contract completed by the end of the chapter. So as long as it's done, regardless of who does it, then Noctu will be happy, Alpo will be happy, and you get to maintain your status of nobility. If you want to increase your noble rank, you need to accomplish and complete a number of ranks of noble contracts times 3. Or a number of noble contracts equal to your tier times 3. So if you are a real go-getter noble and you really want to climb in the rank, we're no longer going to leave that up to our decisions. It's going to be completely mechanical based. So if you're a noble and you go and accomplish all the other nobles' quests and their contracts, then you will ascend in nobility. Something that is important about that as well, so the noble meetings, the way they're going to work is we're adding a little bit of story to the nobles and how they work. So you have what's known as royal magic. So before King Alcyon died, he established this thing known as royal magic, which is this epically powerful magic that's been unheard of ever since, you know, the time of great human kings. And this royal magic is what allowed the king to maintain order in the realm. So if you're a noble house or you're a guild house, your name is registered in this book. So while as far as the story is concerned, no new name can be added typically to the book. When you pick up nobility and make up your noble title, your noble family has been in that book for years, and you're just part of that family, you know, that's ascended down that lineage. And so all the demotions and the promotions are no longer going to be handled by a particular noble who may have, you know, bias or, you know, may not want to promote somebody. Now it's going to be done through this ritual magic kind of story. So at the beginning of a chapter, the nobles will come together for this royal meeting. And at the royal noble meeting, that's when we'll have an envelope with all the relevant information of which nobles will be demoted, which nobles will stay the same, and which nobles will be promoted. And so that'll be completely out of the NPC hands because we hope to have the players managing a lot more of the town themselves. So have fun with that.
Keyword hope.
Yeah, we hope. If the players can't manage the town themselves and they just all die, well, you know, that so be it.
Anarchy forever.
And then
The Grand Bishop is willing to run your town for you for just, you know, a couple of small things that you have to do for him.
yes. So we also have Guildmaster, which is a new ability. It's 2 AP, just like Noble. And it works similar to how Guildmasters and leaders worked in the previous iteration, where for every member of your guild, you gain 1 IA. But it's been expanded a little bit where you don't have to share a universal. So guilds before were kind of like, well, you have a tailor guild, you have a scholar guild. But in reality, you don't really make roleplay crews like that, right? You don't really make a roleplay crew where everybody's a scholar or everyone's a tailor. You make a roleplay crew where you have a scholar, maybe 2, or you have a tailor, or you have a person that specializes, and that's your crew. So now when you form a guild, it's based around that concept, where your guild leader will get a number of IAs just based on the number of members that are in the guild. But additionally, if you join a guild or you join a noble house, you're going to have to be blood bonded with a magical favor. And if you quit the guild without the noble or the guildmaster letting you leave, you suffer a resurrection. So this is kind of to make...
You die.
Yes, you die. This is because people were flipping back and forth between noble houses and flipping back and forth between guild houses, and it was just really complicated. So now we think this will slow people down from wanting to do that, and you really have to make a choice. Like, do you want to join this noble house? Well, if you do, you're blood bonded. So for you to leave without the noble releasing you, you're going to suffer a death. So you should really be sure you're going to join this guild house or this noble house.
Also in play, that little bit of system note combined with the liege abilities of human is very much in play. How humans took over and maintained control of large portions of the world, and why other races have a really hard time breaking up to that power level.
Yeah, indeed. And you'll see a lot of that kind of in that story. And then, of course, you know, if you don't want to, you don't have to deal with guild story or noble story at all, which plenty of players enjoy. Is there anything else? Oh, and the other thing is,
Guilds are more generic.
yeah, I already told him that
okay.
it's not based on the profession or based on the universal. And then of course guild masters and nobles. We'll talk about this a little later, but they can make a building for their guild that eventually gives an IA back to their guild members.
Yeah, a workshop and a manor house is what we're calling them.
As you can see here, you now have, well, we'll talk about crafting kits a little bit later, but you have your crafting, and of course artisans make your buildings. Most of the crafting is the same. Oh, Teddy, you get to talk about...
Okay, I'll describe this. Okay, so first of all...
First tell them a little bit about...
Yeah, first of all, scroll up a little bit here.
I'll let you
Oh, sure.
take over from it.
All right. Yeah, so first up, everyone can see that Master Crafters and Grandmaster Crafters are going to be able to put a gem into weapons as well. So now we have socketed items. That's going to tie in a little more later when we talk about enchanted items. But for right now, all you need to know is that it increases the recipe slots, which is great because now you can hit that high rank of recipe that we wanted you to hit. But the most important thing that has changed is the inventions. So first of all, Tier 1 through 3 inventions are just really simple things like matches and lighters and stuff you find around. You don't really make them with the system. If you wanted to, you could, but it's not really something that's the system's mainly built for. You're not going to get a use for it in play. You know, you're not going to get like you invented a lighter, so now you can throw. No, you're not going to throw fire because you invented a lighter. It's a mundane thing. But there are player-made inventions, and player-made inventions are inventions that give you a bonus in play. And there can either be Tier 4 or Tier 5 inventions. They're more complex, and they're all considered pretty much new, or at least not common. People don't know about these sort of things. Like, for instance, last iteration, the bicycle. The future device that was too powerful to exist. Yes, we had to get rid of the bicycle. But if you wanted to invent the bicycle, you see right here, you have the chain-powered drive and the pedal wheel. Maybe you could combine these two things at Tier 5, because that's what Tier 5 inventions are now. They're combining two Tier 4 inventions. So a Tier 4 invention is anything that performs a single task, and then you got your more complex Tier 5 inventions. That pretty much is...
Scrap to build them.
Yeah. That's pretty much the generic. That's pretty much the generic, like, you know, scale of invention. But to actually make inventions, just like you're doing ritual augmentations, you first use your scrap, which is something that you're going to get back from items. When items break, they become scrap. We're also going to be handing out scrap on mods. Depending on the mod, usually one of the things commonly you'll get back from a mod is going to be scrap. You can turn in scrap to just get an ingot out of it if you want, but they're also used to make inventions, and that's where scrap becomes useful. So it's good to keep specific scrap, and sometimes you can even have certain scrap that can be repaired back to the invention that it was to begin with. So that's interesting to check out. When you experiment, like I said, it's just like the augmentations. You go ahead and you try and do a discovery IA to see if it's even possible. And then if it is possible, what's going to happen is you're going to get the invention recipe scroll, which is going to then tell you the further instructions of how to actually go through the process of making a working model for this thing. With experiment alone, you're basically just seeing it if it is possible, making like little prototypes and stuff. You don't actually get the benefit of the thing until you actually craft the invention. It's also going to be a lot simpler. So right now, when you do it, you either see if it works or it doesn't. And if it works, it's going to take 5 IAs to complete the experiment. And then you get your scroll. And then after you have your scroll, you got to have a minimum of 5 IAs to create the invention. Depending on the invention, you might have more material components, or you might have a different kind of time or skill component that you might not have. It's going to be listed on the invention recipe scroll. So if you want to get out there and you want to make some new cool items that aren't in the system, this is going to be the new system for it, and it's going to be accessible only by Grandmaster Crafters.
Cool. Yeah, Teddy took a lot of personal time last iteration messing with the experimentation, especially with like Shacklebolt. So keep in mind this section in the red was the old way of doing things. We have this new way now. And of course what Teddy didn't mention about this is setting the precedent for your steampunkers. Yes, that's right. So we always had it's always been rumored about the steampunkers that live in Sargon. Some of you may have even been on mods or quest lines that involved a little bit of steampunk. Well, now this is how you do it. You're going to see characters that specialize in scrapping everything.
Oh, and to answer Kyle's question, large things like carts and ships and those things, those are all inventions that you're going to have a specific recipe scroll for. If you want a boat, you have to have a recipe scroll for a boat, and you know, depending on the recipe, depends on whether or not you're going to be able to craft it.
Indeed. And so something else that all crafters can do, all crafters can spend IAs turning scrap metal or scrap material into a fresh unit of material. I believe it's a 5-to-1 ratio. So if you have 5 scrap units of steel, that'll make you 1 fresh unit of steel. So you're going to see, you know, especially NPC-wise, you're going to see characters that will be on mods. They'll be collecting scrap, you know, putting scrap together for, you know, some of them for the purpose of just turning it back into valuable units, or for making inventions for later game.
So these are the basic changes to crafting. The most important thing to note here is all the rules pretty much stay the same, but instead of actually making the item, a lot of the times you're going to be making a kit, and you can spend an additional IA to actually make the item. But why don't we scroll down to the tag to actually show them?
Right. So we're going to show you the new item tag. I mean, y'all are familiar with the item tags we were using on those like business card sized pieces of paper, so it's an improvement on that. But essentially what the crafting kit does is it brings crafting back to in-game. Yes, that is right, crafting in-game. So what you do is you turn in all of your components, your Copex, your units, all that good stuff you turn in during the IAs. You spend an IA and you make a crafting kit. So if you want, you can spend 2 IAs per craft and make a completed item, right? So if you wanted to take the extra time, spend 2 IAs, make a full completed item, you get it just like normal. Or you can reduce your time by half, take 1 IA, and you make what's known as a crafting kit. It is pretty much everything you need inside of a craft. The only other thing that you need to do is you just need to sign it. You need to have a crafter of the appropriate tier spend time with the crafting kit in play, and then they sign it with their player character ID. It's just a small aside, but every player will have their own unique character ID that they'll be using to, you know, instead of a signature, they'll put that. So a crafter will take an item, it'll say bronze crafting kit, 2 keens in it or something. Well, you can just go and spend an hour, 5 minutes, whatever the time is, and
I think it's 5 minutes.
I think it's 5 minutes, and you can just use the crafting kit, role play, you know, crafting it, and then you sign off on it, and now the kit's ready to be used. But as long as it's a crafting kit and a crafter has not signed their maker's mark, has not indicated that the kit is a functional item, it can't be used. So imagine it's all the components that you need to craft something all together in one. It just needs a crafter to do the last final steps to put together. So what this does is it allows you as the players to be able to craft items in play, but it allows us as staff members to have calculated all of your resource value beforehand. And here is the new item tag.
Yeah, sure. On the front, you can see on the left-hand side here, on the left-hand side of the tag is the staff information box. We fill that out when we hand you the kit, and that is all the stuff that you turned in that we have to verify. On the right-hand side is all the stuff as well as the back of the card that you're going to be able to fill out when you complete the crafting kit. So if you come up to a card and you see you see this right here. I don't know if y'all can see my mouse, but you see this right here all filled out, but this is blank. That means that this is a crafting kit, and specifically this should be blank as well to note that it hasn't been used yet. Now, if you want to use it, like you said, you spend that 5 minutes. We have, there it is. Crafting must complete a 5-minute ritual before writing in the info in the crafting kit. A crafting ritual consists of players drawing the item. So that's the basic thing, is you actually take a piece of paper out and you draw the item. That's your basic crafting ritual.
If you don't want to make a Fizz-Rep anvil, if you don't want to come up with something else that's creative, you need to draw. That's right. That is the new standard that you're crafting in game. Guess what? You're drawing the item that you're crafting. So get your pencils, get your crayons, get whatever it is. So when I walk up to you as a player and I'm like, hey, what you doing? And you're drawing some epic death sword, well, now I know what you're doing. You're crafting an epic death sword. That's...
Yeah, as well, in addition to drawing, if you didn't want to do that, you could craft a Fizz-Rep. You know, for certain ones, depending on if the theme fits, you could complete a puzzle or play a simple game like... I can't think of any like specifically, but like we said, like maybe like cornhole or like a beanbag toss or something. I don't know, but like if you want something to do while you're crafting, that's sort of the guidelines for what we're doing. But you gotta try and make it at least semi-related to what you're actually supposed to be doing.
Otherwise, you're drawing. You know why? Because crafting anything, you need to draw out some designs. If you're not drawing designs, then you're probably not actually crafting anything of importance.
Yeah, so filling out the crafting kit's really simple. You just write the name of your weapon, put the tagline the weapon's going to call.
The tagline will, you
Yeah,
just fill out the info.
Well, you might change the tagline by adding recipes or other things as well, so you need to know that. And then you'll have a number of recipe slots indicated here. You write the recipes that you choose right here. And then make sure you have all the taglines and any additional properties you need to write here.
Slightly, so that's why I don't want to get too...
Yeah. And then on the back, the important thing to note is this grid over here. This grid is the thing that you're going to be using when the item is shattered, when it needs to be repaired, and when you use abilities on an item.
Yeah, so a really big problem we were having last iteration, I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with this. We had a lot of players that had special magic items that had per day uses or whatever, or X amount of uses. Well, there's never tags to be able to show these ability uses, and we decided from a logistics standpoint, it's a nightmare for us to give use tags to every single magical item that's in the game, because you know what, there's a lot of magical items. So instead, you're going to keep track of the uses of your items on the item tag. So, for example, let's say you had an item and on the back an activated ability would say resist shatter. Well, when you use that resist shatter, you're going to mark its use under the number 1, and if it...
Oh, sorry.
And so if it's here under 1 and this said resist shatter, you would mark right there, and now that weapon can't use another resist shatter until it's repaired. And you'll mark it as repaired by signing your player ID number in the repair slot. So if you'll imagine you have a weapon, it has abilities. Once you use the abilities, they're all marked off, and then you need to go to somebody to repair it. When they repair it, boom, it's good to go again. But when it's out of repair slots and it has no more durability, your item becomes scrap. So another benefit that we're hoping to accomplish with this, we already tested it last iteration. It worked really well. We just want to get everyone on it from the beginning, is your items will have degradation. So when you have that really cool sword, you're not going to have this hoarding problem where very powerful characters end up literally having chests full of magic items. You open the chest and literally they're sifting through magic swords with abilities. So now as you use the items and use the abilities, they will degrade. Most abilities will not be per day on items. They'll be per repair. And if you're a crafter, you're very familiar with the system already. It's just that we softly rolled it in over the last few chapters.
Well, now that we've kind of discussed this, let's go up and briefly cover the recipes and what changed there.
Yeah, we need to go back and just cover a few of these. All right, so here's one. So you can only use a large weapon in one hand if you have 5 natural strength. before you needed 5 strength with buffs, but now it's 5 natural strength. But
also, there is an advantage on combat, but we're going to get to that in a second. That's going to allow you to do this.
Yes, and we added a little bit of strength to combat as well, so it's a little easier for certain characters to get 5 natural strength.
5.
Yes, races that go a strength build will hit 5, so those strong characters will be able to wield a large 36-inch to 48-inch weapon. So we know some players, like their 42-inch weapons, but you know what? They're strong, and you know what? We know why you like them, because wielding 2 42-inch weapons is really strong in LARP combat. So now, you're going to have to balance that a little bit.
You're going to have to work for it a little bit.
Yep. I know, I played a shield character for years, and I can't tell you the pain I had to go through fighting 2-weapon fighters. Okay, so melee weapon crafting.
No, we want people to write on the tags, so we're not going to laminate them.
Yes, but we use cardstock, so the material's pretty strong, and we've had players laminate cards, and we've just written on top of the lamination, and it's been fine. Like we've had to add an effect or do something.
I don't think we're going to laminate them.
No, we won't laminate them, but you as players could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So splintering, that was already there. It was highlighted just so people were aware, because it only got used, I think, like once. But we think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Splintering was definitely underused.
So you'll notice that experiment was removed from all of the recipe lists, and that's because it's now just a generic Grandmaster Crafter thing to do, is experiment with, the type of things you can create. And, we discussed that earlier with the whole invention system. Now, the changes for the recipes, we added in a recipe at tier 5 for everyone to replace that experiment. And the one we added here for melee is, you'll see Pierce. There weren't a lot of instances of the ability to get Pierce, and this will now round off like people's ability to get Pierce. We actually took a couple out, and then we changed how some of the other ones worked. And so now you will have Pierce with weapon if you choose to put it in the recipe, but you'll notice it does degrade the weapon if you use it a lot.
And then of course you have your range weapon has their own crafting.
Range weapons, they're a little more deadly than melee weapons. They get their lethal and pierce
we're coming
earlier.
back to crossbows a little bit, but essentially crossbows are going to have a set amount of damage when you make them. So you make a crossbow, it's going to be a tier 1 crossbow, and it does 10 damage on a 60 count reload. So that's how your crossbows are probably going to be working. You invent, it's more of like a device. You have a device that you do the count, you launch the attack, and that's how it's going to go. And I think everyone's pretty
there's going to be like tiers of crossbow.
Okay, so the big change on armor is, of course, that you can't dodge. In armor.
Encumbrance
can't dodge. Yes.
Encumbrance has been increased. You cannot dodge while wearing any armor. But now, if you pick up the lightweight recipe, half suits can dodge only.
Yeah, so if you get lightweight, your half suit armor can dodge, but you'll never be able to dodge in a full suit anymore, and typically you will not be able to use dodges in armor. So if you're going a certain build, you're gonna have to choose between that. Do you want dodges or do you want armor?
Yeah, and we've also noticed we've changed Bulwark was completely broken. It was broken the first time, and then we changed it because we were like, that's too broken, and then it was broken again. And now we feel like we found something that fits well with it and is not ridiculously broken.
Just resist any physical attack.
To resist physical attack.
Could be very
or
useful.
Durability column.
Stop a death strike, something like that. Could help you a lot. For shields got expanded a little bit with their recipes. You have the agile shield for +1 damage to a melee weapon while you're holding the shield. So that's going to be very interesting to your shield characters.
That buff sword and board.
Yes, you buff sword and board.
Sword
Finally,
and board got that buff.
sword and board has something. And, they got nothing for so long, but now they got something. They can also resist a massive. This is like the only location that you can resist massive. And it doesn't bypass blocking is with the brace shields.
And yes, innate pierce is back, but it's much rarer to see it everywhere. Well, someone brought it up in the chat, and like it is back, but you're not going to see it all the time. You're going to literally see it when someone has that tier 5 weapon or tier 4 range weapon, and they have a specific advantage that allows them to do that. You're not going to have it all the time.
To sum up what he's trying to say is there may be a couple situations where high tier characters have an innate pierce, but it will be a physical attack. So if you do see an innate pierce, it's going to be innate pierce 50 damage, innate pierce 20 damage, which means you can still block it, and if they hit you in the back, then the innate was irrelevant anyway. So
and yes, you can stack agile like Keen.
Yes, so you can make a super agile shield and have extra damage.
And we were totally listening. You guys can totally block magical attacks with your shield now.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes.
It's just non-physical. If it hits the shield, though, it can't hit you. You put that shield into a spell, and boom, you can resist a non-physical attack. Beautiful. And then, of course, a couple changes on the clothing recipes. Fancy went down to tier 1. Everyone loves Fancy, except for Teddy. But everyone else loves Fancy. Who doesn't love
Belry
Fancy?
Gladden loves Fancy.
Who doesn't love fancy clothes?
You know what, though? I decided I did like it because it increases the base value. I was like, oh, you know what? Okay.
Okay.
And yes, Fancy does stack.
Yes,
Yeah.
Fancy
Oh, yeah.
does stack like any recipe. And then you have the I think it's supposed to say Magi's, not the Mag's robes, but that's the Magi's robes. And you can weave a spell scroll into fibers. So that means you can take your spell scroll and scribe them into your clothes. So for someone to steal them, they'd have to do a full count on you and take your robes from you.
They would have to rob you naked.
Yeah, but they're also not. You also can't see what scrolls are in the robe immediately.
Exactly. You'd have to take the robes
Yeah.
off, and then, so someone's like, hey, let me see what's, if they want to search your robes, I mean, if you want to pull like an Alpo or something, just pull all the clothes off. Pull them all off. Be like, all right, well, if you really want to do this, I'll give you my robes. But I warn you, I'm not wearing anything underneath. And this is an adult game, so watch out. And then, of course, you have weather resistant. So you can pick which type of element you want to have your clothing be resistant to. And so you can have like a fire resistant jacket. Maybe, I guess, a rain jacket. I don't know. Whatever you want. And then the clothes will give you a resist. And then, of course, healing garments. Healing effects are doubled on the wear. I don't think it was...
Was it that? Not that?
I don't... I'm almost positive it wasn't quite that.
What was it?
We will life you twice.
I'm pretty sure
I
it was-
filled it in. I didn't remember what it was. I accidentally
So
deleted it.
healing garments definitely increases your healing.
Hey, if
but
you remember what healing garments did, put it in the chat.
No, it gave you +1 to your healing per recipe. It's just... It still increases your healing, but it may not quite double your healing like it says right there. We'll see about that one. All right,
I don't
and then-
really see why not.
I can think of a lot of reasons why not, but we're not going to get into that
All
right
right, so
now.
you're like
Let's-
the only person.
And then traps and locks, trap and lock crafting kits. So, mainly just traps are nastier. They're actually way nastier. You thought traps weren't nasty? Well, guess what? Now they just kill you pretty much, like straight kill you
I don't
dead.
know if you guys got this, but traps are nasty.
Traps are super, like, tier 3 pierce. So, yes, tier 3 innate pierce traps. That's right. If you don't have Tinkerer or Rogue, get got. And then there was a problem with throwing people, especially, throwing noble vampires just onto trap after trap after trap after trap. And,
Yeah, Alpo.
Yeah, we know. We're looking at you, Alpo. That's right. And, of course, there was the classic backpack healer style where you just throw the gypsy into a trap and just holistics for healing arts him to 1 hit point after every trap. So no more. I mean, you could do that, but upper tier traps, as you can see, you have the curse trap. So you'll be immune to healing and life if you try to do that. And then at tier 5, you have the dreaded incineration trap. That's right. Fire, death, obliterate corpse. And then, of course, the soul trap. If you die in a soul trap, it sucks your soul up in the...
And who you gonna call?
Yeah, and who you gonna call? Maybe Heath, but he's not gonna help you, so...
No.
So yeah, know that if you're going to try and just throw yourself into walls of traps, and especially really powerful plaplaces,
You might just res.
You might res.
Yeah,
You might res.
While we're here, I want to note that like you see craft key right there. the only thing you're gonna get a key for now is a lock. So we're not gonna have a million keys running around. Everybody's got keys for this and that and all these other sort of things. Just locks have keys. And how do you stop the traps? Well, the traps are gonna be stopped when you open the lock. All the traps behind it lock.
Yes.
Bleh. When you open a lock, all the traps behind it open
So
with it. If you use the key.
If you don't put a lock on a container or device or something that has a trap on it, then opening it, you have no choice but to take the trap, even if you set the trap.
Yes.
So, that's good for that. We showed y'all the crafting kits.
Some of the comments in the chat are hilarious. Yeah, just we were talking about Alpo.
Yeah, we're
And then down here,
You know,
he's like,
yeah,
still
we're gonna have just throw Brian into all the traps, and then throw him into the soul trap.
Oh man, here's
Have
combat.
the soul trap closet.
Guys, who's ready to see combat?
This is probably the biggest change
Should we just
we've
skip
done.
over? Should we just skip over? If there's no interest in it, we'll just skip over it.
Yeah, we could just skip.
If
you
no
want
one
to skip?
wants-
Fights in this game anyway.
Right.
Press S in the chat if you want to skip.
Because if no one's interested, no one needs to see combat. I don't think. We just want spells, right?
Yeah, it's just,
That's
that's
all,
all
like,
we
all
want.
I do is eat
Spells
birdseed and throw at people.
Spells and racials.
No,
Alright,
so
I'm
far,
not
and
seeing-
if people want to
Let's
comment,
see it. People want to see it. People
Oh,
wanna
they
see it.
said
So
they
I
wanna
guess-
see
I
it?
guess we'll do it.
You want to see
I
it?
guess. Well, we can skip ahead
and
here.
some people are commenting about how they want to
So, all right.
feed vampires and traps.
Chris
So-
wants to do it. All right,
Wait,
Chris.
where's the general?
Oh, it's at the bottom because you choose it last.
Okay, cool. So here we go. So here is your new list. Yes, combat has 2 lists now. Actually, 3 lists.
3 lists.
Combat now has 3 lists, people. That's right. Not just 1 list. So every combat character is the same, but not really. Now you're actually gonna be different. So just like spells, whenever you go into combat, you have to pick a primary school. You pick primary agility, or you're gonna pick primary strength. And then as you level up in that, you'll be able to go into and cross-class into the other one or into the general list. So we're gonna start it by going through the agility combat advantages. So as you can see, this is a slight change. This +2 waylay is actually a +1 to the waylay strike, but backstab is on the agility list. You also still have execution strike and waylay.
Wait, hold on.
What do you...
Apparently, Kyle might be coming to the game. I don't know. It's just apparently he said this. So I just want to like everyone. Kyle might come to the game, dog. Just all right. Back to the.
Am I having deja vu?
Who's Kyle?
Okay, so we've got stretch. Yes, that is right. If you're an agility character, you gain the ability to stretch. You spend 5 minutes, well, stretching. And then the next maneuver that you spend costs 0 points. Oh, and by the way, they're no longer called maneuver points. It's called stamina. So it's how much stamina does your character have? Oh, I'm running out of stamina. I have a lot of stamina. You know, and so you're not really referring it to this out-of-play meta thing. It's going to be stamina in play. And then, of course, when you get to higher tier adept, you have fatigue strike. So you can strike someone with a fatigue attack. You gain Florentine proficiency. So some people may or may not be familiar with Florentine style. It's when you have 2 weapons in your hands and one of them is facing downward in a defensive position. If you do this, it gives you the ability to resist a disarm attack while in Florentine. And of course, they get no man or no one now left behind. So they'll be able to drag somebody for +4 strength.
Woo! Gender neutral rules.
Gender neutral rules, yay. No one is left behind. Okay, and then of course Journeyman tier, you see accurate strike. So you may have been familiar with modified strike. We broke that up a little bit. So now agility characters get accurate strike, which lets them throw an innate attack. And they also still get dodge and stretch too. So your agile characters are the ones that are going to be backstabbing. They're going to be dodging. They're going to be stretching for free maneuvers. And they're going to be attacking you with innate attacks. So agile characters, well, they counter agile characters. That's right. If you want to counter another super fast combat character, you might want to go super fast combat.
And yes, you can totally make a character that just sleeps and stretches and be using maneuvers and abilities in the game.
Yeah.
But hold up, swole up. I know what you're asking yourself. Dodge? Only on agility? What could possibly be as good as a dodge? Well, we're going to cover that next. So just like the agility character defeats the agility character, the strength character also defeats the strength character.
So we have a little bit of a nerf to your armor, people. So armor proficiency, if you want to wear full suits of armor, you need to pick up armor proficiency. That might even expand to any armor at all, so watch out for that.
Yeah.
But yes, if you want to wear armor, you're going to need to spend an advantage to get it, because armor, we like the system, we love it, we think toughness is cool, but you might need to spend an advantage in it to do it. You also gain the ability to flex. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. You add 1 strength to a single strength test because you flex. You can flex and do something. Let's say that you're stuck in that position where you only have 3 strength and you just really wish you could break out of entangles. Well, guess what? All you have to do is flex. And then boom, now you're breaking out of entangles.
Swole Patrol saves the day again.
Yep, Swole Patrol saving the day. And if you really just want to stunt, you could always flex on somebody.
Yeah, we never stopped you from doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but you can flex all day at Larpworks events.
No,
Yes.
no, you cannot flex all day. Now you can only flex for as much stamina as you have.
Flexing's hard. After flexing all day, you get tired. And then, of course, you have Stabilize. You can target a dissipating or bleeding character and suspend their bleeding or dissipation count for 1 minute per use of Stabilize. So this could come incredibly valuable for your field medic types that are trying to save somebody, run somebody back to town, etc. And then, of course, you have your specs like normal. You have Disarm, Strike, and Strength. And then, of course, you have Field Medic. This ability, everyone on combat strength is going to love. You spend 60-second count and you deliver a 10 heal. So, yes, it costs a couple maneuver points, but you don't need a healer anymore if you're a combat character. You could just Field Medic.
Well, I wouldn't say you don't need a healer.
You
but
don't
you can
need
now
one.
you can now not die and not have
Look,
one.
no, you can't replace the backpack healer. I'm not saying that. Nothing
You have
replaces
so much stamina
a
that
healer.
You just feel better.
Yes, and nothing replaces a healer literally with no legs, amputee, in your backpack, just healing you. But yes, this will be very useful. And of course, you have Massive Strike, which allows you to add strike to a 2-handed attack. And of course, you have Parry. Parry allows you to, parry.
Oh, well, right,
a
but hold
single-
on. Right before you go get pizza, Kyle, yeah, you can't block massive with parry. And that's because the strength character beats the strength character.
Yes.
So guys, can I hold a one-handed weapon in 2 hands and use Massive Strike with it?
No, because a two-handed,
It's not- yeah, it's
yeah, a
not-
one-handed
So
weapon
we need
is
to
not
hold
massive.
2-hand weapons, not just used in 2 hands.
I mean, it's based on the style, so yeah. I
No,
guess
it's
if
any
you
weapon used in 2 hands.
You
Like
could
just-
take a
yeah.
dagger and do
That's
a
what I'm
massive
thinking,
strike.
like-
Totally.
Yeah,
You
but
can
you have
totally
to
do
you have
that.
to use both hands on that dagger.
But
I was
also
listening, Kyle.
keep in mind, parry. You're trading parry for dodge, so it's any situation that parry would be useful. You could have dodged, unless it was an innate attack, and that's the whole point. You would want to dodge the massive attack, but you would want to block the innate attack or parry the innate attack. And then, of course, General. General is where you will find some general abilities like all of your beloved strikes. Power Strike, Cripple Strike, Lethal Strike. Shatter Strike is there as well. And then with addition, you have Training, which is a slightly upgraded... what was the name of that ability? Expertise, yes. It
Yeah.
is a slightly upgraded expertise, which only gave you 2. Now you get 4 from picking up Training. And you have Rally. You can perform a 60-second count per willing target, and you can make them encouraged and inspired by having a speech. And for each target, you spend 2 stamina, and they receive +3 damage for 5 minutes.
William Wallace, everybody.
Yeah, so you spend 5 minutes doing a speech, and then you can give 5 people +3 damage each. And if you're doing this, you're like a character. You're like the general or the leader. You may not be running into combat yourself, so you don't really need your maneuver points, but you just gave +15 total damage to your group for 10 maneuver points. All right, so we are moving along into spellcasting. So a couple things that have changed about spellcasting. First off, we're just like with maneuver points being called stamina, spell points are now called mana. That's right, I see the mana flowing through you, not I see spell points, you know, flowing through you or something. So now it's a bit more immersive to discuss, you know, these points that people have. Something that's very important now when you pick up a school is when you pick your primary school. Everyone knows about picking a primary school, but now your primary school has very important implications. So the thing about primary school is that if you pick up primary, you are forbidden from your opposing school. Now, you can get that school unforbidden, but this is kind of a mechanism to slow people down from jumping across the wheel as quickly as they were. So when you pick up white primary, you have to forbid necromancy. When you pick up black primary, you have to forbid alchemy.
We are aware that we do not have the image in this current version of the magic wheel, which is highly crucial given the forbidden school situation.
Yes, we will have a better edited version of this rulebook up very soon, and then we have a very lovely edited version being worked on that will be coming a little later. And as you can see here, this is the rules on Forbidden Schools of Magic. And then the other thing is with picking a primary is your primary school of magic has to be your highest tier of magic. So that means that you can no longer go primary white, hop across to nature, and then suddenly go Arcmaster nature. You're going to have to either pick up an ability that's in gray that lets you change your primary school, or you're going to need to level up your primary school. So you really need to think about what your choice is in primary school. Before, it kind of didn't really matter. You picked a primary school, but like by mid-game, it was irrelevant. Now, your primary school will almost always be important. When you're Tier 4, it's still important. Are you Tier 4 in white? Well, now you can go to Tier 3 or 4 in binding.
Also, forbidden and primary schools have massive in-play roleplay implications. Massive.
Massive.
Everyone else did. I'm sorry. Massive.
Massive implications.
Seriously, like some NPCs will like straight up try and kill you if they find out that you have forbidden their magic. Things like that.
Yeah. Did you mention Magic Affinity?
Oh, yes, and Magic Affinity has changed slightly, so you only get your Magic Affinity spell if you have access to that school of magic. So if you go primary necromancy and you're an elf, you do not get your free white spell like you used to. You only get your free spell if you have access to that magic. So you'd have to go primary white to start the game with that white magic as an elf. Or let's say that you went primary binding, you wouldn't gain that white spell as an elf until you were tier 2, bought all of your tier 1 binding, and then had access to tier 1 white.
You guys know it makes more sense that way anyway.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Can Affinity ignore Forbidden? No.
No.
No, nothing ignores Forbidden. If you get Forbidden, you forbidden. Forbidden. Like I don't even want to see you. You can't come to my parties. Like I'm calling you mama.
You can get the Forbidden School removed later, but that was just one of the things. Like, so we didn't want to make it where you can never go opposing schools. It's just not as easy anymore. Before, you only had to pick up one gray advantage. You'd pick up magic diversity, and you could just hop across for one. Now you have to pick up a few advantages and crawl across the wheel.
Yeah, because last time it was ridiculous, y'all. Like, seeing so many people go double, like, opposing school magics. Like, that's the combo right there. Like, oh, duh. You pick up the school, and then you pick up the school that counters the school. Yeah, no shit, you're going to have, like, the best stuff in the goddamn game. Like,
yes. So now you can still do that, but you're going to have to roleplay. You're going to have to go and pick up some advantages. You're going to have to do a few things. And so excited to announce Gray Magic. Gray Magic is now fully complete. It is a full magic list. That's right. 4 advantages per tier.
How about that?
That is right. So to start, you have read and write magic. That's what you have to buy to purchase any magic. Like
Magic literacy.
no, it's magic literacy. It was your scribe scroll. It was your gray magic, the one you had to pick up. That's what it is. And then a change that is very important. Everyone pay attention to this if you are a caster. You can no longer calculate all your spell points and magic potions and things in play to scribe scrolls. Instead, you pick up Craft Spell Scroll. Craft Spell Scroll allows you to spend an IA and components, which would be your magic potions, and you create a blank spell scroll. This blank spell scroll will allow you...
That's it right there.
Yeah. This blank spell scroll will allow you to scribe a scroll on it. So let me give you an example. I have Craft Blank Spell Scroll. I spend 1 IA and turn in 1 magic potion. When I come to the game, I have a blank tier 1 spell scroll. Anyone with scribe spell, which is anyone who can cast magic, can now scribe a tier 1 spell onto my blank spell scroll, and it's good to go. So essentially, all of your component costs, instead of taping magic mana points and magic potions to pieces of paper and all this nonsense, we're going to give you an official tag or an official piece of paper or whatever, and you're going to have it, and you're going to be like, I just need to put the spell onto this piece of paper, and it's now active.
Yeah, if you can read and write magic, you can read and write magic onto blank spell scrolls.
Crazy.
All right, Light and Darkness. Pretty much the same, with the exception that anyone can turn off a light. That kind of got brought up with conserving batteries and electricity and people going to sleep and all that. So anyone could turn off a light. But the light spell is what you need to turn on a light. And if you cast a darkness spell, that forces someone to turn off a light. As you can see, you can forbid magic. So now... are we missing?
Yeah, it's duelist. I just realized that.
Okay, so we are missing one that's here.
Yeah, but we know what it is.
Duality.
We made it up. We did the rule. We did the work. It's just not here yet. All right, we're getting
Forgot
it.
about this one. So,
But it's duality.
it lets you pick up another. It lets you change or pick up another primary school of magic.
Well, not change. There's
Yeah,
one
it's
later
not
that you
Just
can
let
do
you pick
that.
up another one?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, not
Yeah,
sorry. We're still good.
so basically you choose a magic school adjacent to your primary magic school, and then that also becomes like a second primary. And the reason that's important is because you're to have your greater magic powers.
Yeah, well, if you want to also level up in that school faster and more,
Yeah.
and as we said, for story purposes, there's a lot of benefits to having primary schools, and for ritual magic, it comes in handy to have multiple primary schools. As you can see, you can forbid magic. So instead of getting magic diversity that lets you hop across the wheel, you pick up forbid magic, and you forbid another school of magic, effectively allowing you to skip it. So we're really emphasizing the crawling across the wheel again. It was like that last iteration until we introduced the magic diversity ability. We were like, oh, we should let people, diversify some. Well, that was too easy. So now you do have to crawl across the wheel. But if you wanted to go to the opposing side, so you pick up primary white and you still want to go and get necromancy, instead of costing you 1 advantage like it used to cost you for magic diversity, it's going to cost you 5 advantages, because you're going to have to, you can forbid one school, and then you have to go all through tier 1 in another school. So you went from 1 advantage to 5 advantages to hop across the wheel.
Yeah. And in the case of trying to get your forbidden school, you'll have to work in play to find a master caster who can do it for you.
Yeah, but humans can do it in 4, so...
It's true. And then, of course, Sigil is a tier 2 spell, because Sigils are cool, they're permanent. You can't really remove them typically, so once you put a Sigil on an item, you draw on the item tag.
Yeah,
Sigil.
that little circle on the front of the tag that we showed you earlier.
And then something that is really good, you have Imbue Trap, which allows you to make a magical trap that has abilities that do instant health loss or deliver an ailment. So, like, negative effects. You can't put anything positive or dispel in it. And then you have Craft Gate Key. So this is very important for people to have. So crafting a gate key, we really liked the gate concept. We really liked the mod concept. We really liked how all that was working, so we're expanding on that. So with Craft Gate Key, kind of like your Grandmaster Scout, you can set up mods during the interlude. So during the interlude, you craft a gate key. You tell us about it. You say, hey, I want to go to X location, and I want to go to the special abyssal vault that's there. So you would craft a gate key to the special abyssal vault, tell us about it during your IA, and then tell us when you want to do it. So we schedule the mod for you using your in-game ability. So you use your ability, make your gate key, and then we set up your mod to go to the Abyssal Vault at 1 o'clock in the morning. And at 1 in the morning, we'll be ready. If you're not ready, then you wasted your resources, you wasted your IAs, and the story may continue.
Yeah, in some cases, things on the other side might be able to walk through to this side. So if you're not there to deal with them, well, now the town's dealing with your problem.
Yeah,
But-
and in the instance that
really
it,
come to mind.
well, sometimes there may be situations where it just can't happen for logistics reasons or in-play reasons or other reasons. In those reasons, you will get your gate key back.
Right, you're like, hey, I want to schedule this mod for this time, and we're like, well, we actually have this super important thing, and you're just going to have to schedule it an hour later. But this is to help us cater to you, the players. I mean, there's a lot of you that want to go on mods, and we miss people. You know, we send out lots of mods and mod opportunities, but you were sleeping or we didn't see you. Well, now you're going to have abilities to guarantee mod questing. Yeah, so if you want to go on a mod, you're going to be able to set it up. And what you're going to see before being this tier is a lot of NPCs doing this. So a lot of your NPCs will come into town, they'll have gate keys, they'll bring you on quests, or give you a gate key to go on a quest.
Alright.
Right.
Uh-oh, magic.
Uh-oh. Welcome to Magic. So alchemy, the first thing you'll notice is a special new thing called powder. Magic powders cannot be used on their own, but they're mixed into magic potions. And so when you mix magic powder, specifically magic powder, into a magic potion, it causes an additional 2 seconds, but it acts as the spell point for turning it into a coating or a gas. So for instance, if I was throwing a magic gas, I could go mixing 1, mixing 2, mixing 3, 5 magic gas, which would be spending 1 mana. But now I would go mixing 1, mixing 2, mixing 3, use the magic powder, mixing 1, mixing 2, mixing 3, mixing 4, mixing 5 magic gas.
Yes, so it's just like Amber Potion, so it counts as your 1 mana component cost for making spells and coatings, but you add 2 seconds to it. So this is for the purpose of in combat, you can now know verbally if the caster or the alchemist is using mana or they're using magic powder or what was amber potions to throw their gases. It'll be easy for you to determine this. And it's a little bit of a nerf to them doing it as well.
It would be something immersive-wise you'd be able to see.
Yes,
So,
immersive-wise, you can see it happening. And then, of course, Magic Potion is going back to, instead of giving you the use of Scribe Scroll like it did, it's just a component cost. You need to turn Magic Potions in to be able to craft Magic Scrolls. And I think we're actually bringing Magical back, where if you drink a Magic Potion, you just become magical.
Yes, if you drink a magic potion, you become magical. You want to know what that is? You can find out in play.
why you had to say it like that?
I don't know why I had to say it like that. I was just like,
It's foil.
that's leading, you know. Yeah.
Okay, and then another thing is to clean up charms. So we had this big problem with like, okay, well, you're charmed. Who are you charmed to? Well, the rule on charm is that you're charmed to the caster, right? Except for if you're charmed while sleeping or incapacitated or something like that. In which case, when you awaken from incapacitation, you are charmed to the first person you see or interact with. So to solve this funny problem that kept happening where people would eat all these charm cookies, and then it was like, well, who am I charmed to? We have no idea. Well, now the charm potion is just a sleep charm. So just
Familiar, I know.
it's a little strange, but you know, it sounds familiar. It's a Xana dust. you recognize it, and it's only for the potion, so that way, you know, there's no discrepancy of who's being affected by it. You drink this and you go to sleep, and then when you wake up, you're affected to charm.
And we're not doing sleep charm stabbing people with coatings, so...
Yeah, and as for someone asked if, you know, if you had forbidden alchemy, could you drink a potion? Yes, you can drink a potion. You just can't use potions as coating or gases if you know the spell. And same thing goes for all the other magic schools. If that magic school is forbidden, you can still have someone cast a spell on you, but you yourself can't use that spell.
So it may not actually be that detrimental to your character, or seem so, until, you know, in-play ramifications.
Yeah, and mechanically, there might be certain items or things like that you can only use if you have a certain primary school or if something's not forbidden to you.
Oh, here we go. Binding.
That's right, guys. We're giving you a spirit pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Pocket in my pocket.
So, Spirit Pocket, it's just like the Zano ability. You're immune to search counts unless the character has Biomagic Sight. It's kind of cool, actually. We actually found in a lot of situations that characters didn't... There are characters that don't want to kill you. There's characters that would rather just steal your stuff and rob you. And this is going to be one of those great times to have this, especially when you're hiding a necromantic spellbook on your person.
Which is like 90% of you.
Yeah, which is, you know, like most of you. So get binding too, and you can hide it. So we gave them break bind at tier 2. It is a break binds plus your total strength. And so for a single action, you gain +4 strength to breaking out of a bind. We thought immunity to binds at tier 4 were kind of OP. So we decided to hold off on that. Like, I mean, immunities in general were really strong. And so we decided that instead of them having an immunity to binds at tier 4, they would have this ability at tier 2, which lets them break, you know, 2 binds off top. If they have any strength, it lets them break 3 of the binds in the game. So, you know, it lets you break out of, as a binder, most of the binds. But you're still not going to be able to know effects.
It's just like, you shouldn't really be binding binders and half-orcs anyway.
Yeah, you really shouldn't bind a binder, but the binder's no longer going to know effect tier 4 and 5 spells. So that's cool.
This sounds like a 5-star commercial.
Oh, in addition to Biomagic Sight, you can now see the tier of the soul of the target. That's right. So you're able to see their soul. This was requested. It was something that we thought we needed to do as well, and Biomagic Sight needed a little buff from seeing enchantments, so now you also see the soul of a character if you're into that kind of thing.
Yep.
Spirit Shift, well, it's the same thing actually, except you can't walk around in Spirit Shift. Spirit Shift is pretty much a self-inflicted spirit imprison, actually, is what it should say. It should be spirit shift plus, or spirit imprison plus 20. So the big change here that you need to know is that spirit shift, you cannot walk around anymore. People were walking through mods like all day. They're like, oh, spirit shift, I'm just gonna walk through your spider mod, because, you know, you're not gonna just all of a sudden have a dispelling spider that can go spirit shift, you know?
Rather than making spirit spiders, we did this.
Yes, so you can't walk, but you know what? Years of gameplay were played just like this with Spirit Shift, and the fact that, well, no one can really affect you, it's still very beneficial. And that's the other big change about Spirit Shift I just remembered that I should mention, is Spirit Shift, we got rid of the Spirit Tagline. Spirit Tagline is no more.
Thank God.
Yeah, it was like some people thought it was cool to fight in the spirit realm, but you know what? It was super complicated. People just kept flipping back and forth. It was
all I'm saying is, when I was trying to kill Zyth as the end, and he kept flipping in and out of spirit form, I was like, well, shit, this is an OP advantage.
Yeah, so they cannot run around while doing it. And the counter, of course, is the Dispel. Now, yes, any Dispel will get a Spirit Shifted character out of Dispel. So watch out for your Black Casters, watch out for your Tier 4 Binders. There's not a lot of people that have Dispels, but the ones that do are going to be, watch out for them.
That's right. Watch out.
It's really strong. If you're a binder and you Spirit Shift, not many people will be able to affect you. And then, of course, Soul Bind, we moved it up from 1 to 2. because Soulbind is super
Yeah,
strong.
because get out of here, all of you people that just went into fucking binding to pick up Soulbind. Wow, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Just shut up and shove it in your spirit pocket.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I could use binding magic too.
Right, so Black, a minor change. We just changed Cower to Fear because I was tired of saying Power Cower. I mean, it just... And Fear, it sits more to the aesthetic of what's actually going on. And then Abyssal Barrier, you're now fatigued when you walk through an Abyssal Barrier. An Abyssal Barrier actually acts kind of like a veil, and you're fatigued. So, just in case you didn't mean to walk through that Abyssal Veil, and you had the 4 strength, well, now you're stuck there for like 5 minutes.
Watch thyself.
And then when you pass back through it, you're fatigued again. So.
Yes, and of course, Dispel Enchantments now works on Spirit Shifted characters. And Curse came down to Tier 3. That's right. Pierce has moved up, and Curse is now a Tier 3 effect. So get Curse, counter the life, go an Assassin build, do something cool, kill somebody and curse them so their white caster won't even know what's going on. It'll be great.
I was really disappointed with you guys using Curse last game. I want to see people getting cursed this game.
Yeah, more curses.
Yes.
All right, big changes for nature.
Oh, big old changes for nature, y'all. Oh, okay, you're gonna let me? All right. Well, look, big changes for nature, y'all. First thing, we got rid of Earth. There's no more Earth element, and there's no more blocking with massive with claws. So,
There's Earth, but it's
well, shh. They don't even know about that yet. But like, there's no more blocking massive with claws. So before, we had that, and it was completely ridiculous because it was breaking the meta of our game. So here's how that's supposed to work. Innate beats dodge. Massive beats block. Pierce beats resist and absorb. So like when you look at it like that, they're not supposed to have something that be like, oh, well, you can't block massive. Like, well, you could resist and dodge massive already. There's no need to block massive. And so we were like, well, that was one of the main things the Earthcaster did. And a lot of the other things that the Earthcaster had were just kind of tacked on. So we were able to really make nature congruent, and now we have like a rock, paper, scissors thing going on here with fire, sonic, and water. The other big thing is at the beginning, when you choose your first nature spell, you have to choose fire, sonic, and water, and you are now stuck as that element permanently until later tiers when you can find masters and grandmasters of the school to help you change to other types. And one of the other types, as you know, you heard Matt talking about, is going to be an earth/greater nature type where you can control all the elements plus some cool extra benefits.
And answer any of your questions on gems, yes, the emerald gem, since nature is always represented by green, is going to be a nature opal, as it were. So your emerald gem will count as a ruby, a topaz, or a sapphire. Any of those that you want.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you got to pick one element. You got to pick fire, you got to pick air, you got to pick water. You pick the one, you stick with it for a while. And then, of course, elemental attunement, we moved to tier 2. Why? Because gaining immunities was super powerful. Like, stupid powerful. Like, just being immune. Like, too many people literally got elemental attunement at tier 1 just to be immune to, like, fire so they couldn't be incinerated or water or whatever.
It was the Soulbind all over again.
Yeah, exactly. So another change that you'll see is Commune with Nature. Yes, we gave them a new spell, Commune with Nature, because all the nature casters kind of wanted it. They all kind of did it. We kind of let them do it because it kind of made sense, but now it's a spell. So all of your elemental creatures, things like carbuncles, animals, tree ants, golems, nature spirits, all of this good naturey stuff, maybe even a tree, depending on the mod. For these things to talk and be able to understand you and the common tongue, you need to cast Commune with Nature with them. So a tree ant or an elemental comes into town, it's not going to understand you, and you're not going to understand it unless you have a nature caster cast Commune with Nature on them. So this is a very roleplay oriented ability, but it was one that we think a lot of the nature casters like. It was used a lot, so and it adds to a lot of story.
Yeah, and mostly it was only used before by gypsies, and so now we're going to expand that to where more nature casters can use it.
So this is, as you saw, combat having its multiple lists was a big change, and this is the other large change that you'll see in the game. I mean, I didn't take the time to count them all up, but at one point we were looking at who was attuned to what, and at like one point I think 70 or 80% of the nature casters in town were all attuned to Earth. Everyone, because like why wouldn't you be attuned to Earth? So now no more blocking with claws. Claws specifically are things that you do not block with, and especially not block with massive.
Yeah, but we are going to have them leave that open a little bit at tier 5, I believe.
Yes, at tier 5 you can get into
Yeah, but then you're now like the
Essentially,
master of the elements.
So essentially, since Earth was the best by hands down, we made it the best. So it's like your Omni Elementalist goes and eventually gets the Earth route. And then moving on to Necromancy. Yes.
I think they want to skip Necromancy.
Yeah, we want to skip Necromancy.
Oh, yes. No one wants to know Necromancy.
Okay, so a change to Necromancy that's very important for everyone to know. Necromancers cannot cast spells without sacrificing an heroic soul. That's right. So to get spells past tier 1 Necromancy, you need to sacrifice an heroic soul equal to the tier of Necromancy you are trying to access.
No. You have to, even for tier 1,
No,
unless
no,
your primary school.
nope, tier 2.
No, I thought it was if it was your primary
Read
school.
the rule, it's tier 2.
Alright.
Yeah, and you know why we don't sacrifice tier 1? Because that's like newbie sacrificing. That's why we made it you don't start till 2, so people aren't like sacrificing all the newbies to like gain their necromancy. So yes, starting at tier 2, you need to sacrifice souls. So that means you can think that necromancers are good all you want. And you know what? You might have a benevolent necromancer that sacrifices his own soul to gain his power in necromancy, but I am not going to believe any necromancer that tells me that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe it. So when you hear about a group of 5 or 6 necromancers, just keep in mind that when they go to tier 4 or tier 5, they need to harvest a heroic soul. And if you're one of the only other tier 4 or 5 characters or whatever tier it is that necromancer is, well, guess what? They may be looking at you, buddy.
They're gonna anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna anyway. I mean, like, why would they not take your soul? So something else you're seeing here, we lowered down Embrace Death to tier 2. So Consecrate actually has a big use at tier 2. It's specifically for making sure necromancers don't have Embrace Death. And can Raise Corpse, something that a lot of people did not notice, but Raise Corpse, we changed it 2 chapters ago. And it didn't really get noticed, but Thomas tested it out a few times on mods. He said it went really well, so we're going to keep it. When you are Raise Corpsed, you're dead. That's it.
You rezzed.
You rezzed when you are a Raised Corpse. So when they raise your corpse, when the Raised Corpse effect is removed or ends, you res. Why? Well, that's because there was no reason to Raise Corpse someone over Death Now. In almost no situation out of numerous roleplay scenarios would a PC ever want to raise a corpse on another PC and risk them being saved. In every situation, you would death knell them so they'd be dead. Because if you don't, someone will come and kill the undead, and then they'll life them, and then there's no point in doing it. Well, now, you make an undead minion, and
In an hour or not, they're rezzing.
they're rezzing. They're going to die. We're still talking about whether or not Speak with Corpse would let you speak with these undead creatures. That might be something that we might end up doing that we didn't have time to discuss too much.
I feel like it should because they're still corpses.
Yeah, so there's still corpses. So, like, you can, talk to your undead buddy who's like, please kill me. So Necromancer
attacking
while they're trying to kill you, they'll tell you to end their lives. But that is the best you can hope for now. If you come
Unless you just got really shitty for me.
Yeah, if you come across your buddy in a cabin and he's raised, well, the best you can hope for is to put that man down. Put that person down and let them res so that, they can come back.
I mean, you already just let them down to the point that they died, just in a quick form.
Yeah, it was your fault for not being there and keeping them from being raised in the
Yeah.
first place, so.
Directly you.
All right, and white. Big change on white. I don't know if you noticed, but binding lost their ward ailment. Why? Because white has ward ailment now. That's right. Binders had way too many wards. And white casters, well, they weren't warding enough. And late game, ailments honestly weren't that strong, especially because it was really easy to get ward ailment and binding. Well, not anymore. Now only tier 3 white casters get ward ailment. So you're going to see a lot less people stopping ailments. So ailments are going to be a bit more powerful. You're going to have to be there with your cure. And the reason cure is highlighted is just for semantics. It was called remove ailment, but we want to start calling removing ailments curing ailments. So... Oh, and of course they get charm. I don't know if
We moved Invigorate up.
yeah, we moved invigorate up and charm down. So that is right. Jedi are in. These aren't the droids you're looking for, my friends. That is right. That is what this charm ability is. Your white caster will totally charm people and get them to do what they want. Like, oh, a group of ogres, stand back. Let me go and charm these 2 ogres and figure out what's going on. Well, that's your white caster. All right. And that is...
That's all the rules.
That's all the rules that pretty much change. There's like a couple... there's a couple rules that may change. You know, a couple minor patches or alterations. But that's pretty much all the rules and everything that's going to be done.
Everything's pretty much been decided at this point as to what it's going to do. Some of the details might change, but
as you can see, like here we have a chart that shows you all of the lengths of time. Instead of, you know, like we had like enchantments that were persistent and enchantments that were, you know, lasting or enduring. And we were like, well, for story purposes, what if you had ailments that lasted that long? Or what if you had special effects that weren't either that lasted for an amount of time? So, you know, we have that here in the chart. But for the purposes of gameplay, all enchantments in the enchantment status effect are 1 hour. All the ailments and binds are 5 minutes. Almost all of your buffs that give you resistances are persistent. So you still have that standard, but for story purposes, you know, you can see this. You may have a persistent poison, you know.
All right, well, we're going on hour 3 at this point.
So I think we'll wrap it up.
We could wrap it up. Maybe we take a break and kind of talk about maybe some Master and Grandmaster.
Yeah, we could take a break and do that, or do
right.
Master and Grandmaster tomorrow.
No, let's do it today.
Later. All right, well, we gotta take a break.
Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break. Let's say 15, 20 minutes. We're gonna put some music back on for y'all. Hang around.